Good evening. The presenting sponsor of 30 and Nerdy podcast is Advertising Expressions. Advertising Expressions exists to promote your business, school, church, or even your podcast, just like they do for the quite fine show 30 and Nerdy. They promote such organizations by getting their name in front of as many as possible, as often as possible, for as long as possible. So whether you advertise on your rear window, or wear a shirt so that strangers on a train know where you work, be sure that Advertising Expressions can help you. After all, I confess that their service is absolutely murder. Contact them today and tell them 30 and Nerdy podcast sent you to see what deals are in store.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes? Welcome to the 30 and Nerdy podcast, the flagship show of Badcast Company Productions. Today's episode is all about the state of the nerdom. Our panel today is yours truly, and of course, the Rev of Rants himself, Logan Roach. Rev, how are you now?
How are you now? I'm doing good, man. It feels good to be stretching my legs in the 30 and Nerdy studio, you know what I'm saying? Getting on the flagship. I've been, kept behind closed doors on the Pandora waves, the podcast, the Patreon. Now I'm free, like the genie in Aladdin.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
Yes, it will. But now I'm stretching.
So this episode is titled The State of the Nerdom Address. It's an opportunity for us to address the state of things and our many nerddoms within our nerd culture. For a year now, we've been in a global pandemic, a time that none of us really saw coming, a time that we were not ready for, a time that has shown us our strengths and weaknesses as a people, a society, as a planet. The particular part we're going to focus on in this episode is the state of things in our nerd culture and its effects on nerds all around the nerddoms of the infinite nerdiverse. So, Rev, are you ready?
I'm ready, man. I am so ready. Let's do this.
Well, DJ Mike Howie, take us into the show.
It's time to nerd up or shut up.
Let's get dangerous.
Welcome to the 30 and Nerdy podcast, the flagship show of Badcast Company Productions. "30 and Nerdy Podcast" is an alternate reality radio show, a member of the Legion of Independent Podcasts, and part of the Council of Nerds. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Reach out using the hashtag 30andNerdyPod. You can also find us and other amazing podcasts at podchaser.com by searching The Apocalypse and Pod Nation. Got something to say? Email us at 30andnerdypod@gmail.com or check out the website at 30andnerdypodcast.com. Now, sit back, crank it to 11. The nerds are here.
What's up, guys? Now, last time on the season 3 premiere of 30 and Nerdy podcast, the show was all about the Royal Rumble 2021. The panel included us as well as Josh, the Juice is Loose Davis. In that episode, we gathered to talk about one of the biggest events of the year for a wrestling fan, the Royal Rumble. For the first time in years, the three of us were able to gather together in the same room for the event and played our regular games, such as predicting outcomes, choosing numbers, naming our overall winner of the individual Royal Rumble matches. Rev, how do you feel now? It's been a few weeks. We've had another pay-per-view with the Elimination Chamber. Where are you now on the state of the WWE and its road to WrestleMania?
Well, first of all, you forgot to mention our game Hide the 50 Wings as well.
Yes.
Which we
Yes.
killed. It's going pretty good, man. I think I'm still really liking heel Roman, which is, I think, the best thing that's been going for the past year. He's had some stumbles, but he's just very solid. I'm kind of looking forward to the Edge thing. I don't know. I feel like I'd be more excited because I'm an Edge guy. I just don't know what it is. I just feel like, I don't know if it's just I'm missing the people. I just always feel like the crowd reactions are fake. Like they're just filled in. Like they're not actually the people there, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Which I'm sure they are, but
Yeah.
it just
have no
feels
idea
weird.
why
Like
you'd
you're
be feeling that way.
right? They're definitely not pumped in at all. But just like you're saying, the state of things, it's just like this year in wrestling has been so odd because who would have ever thought, even like starting out like in your bingo halls, as they say, with 10 to 20 people wrestling in front of nobody. It's just so peculiar, I guess. But the direction, I mean, things are starting. That's the best part about Rumble is your storylines are kind of coming together, and you get to guess and see and predict, and that's the best thing about the in between. It's like you kind of play your own story maker and see if you're close, and that's the best part.
Mm-hmm.
What about you,
I
man?
made a comment during the chamber. Me and Josh got together and we got to watch it. First off, I absolutely enjoyed the fact that it was the shortest pay-per-view of the year.
Shorter than Raw.
Started at 7 and was over by 9:30. I was like, the 31-year-old
Those are real
in
nice.
me loved that because I was not coming in at 1 a.m. I was home by 9:45.
Nice.
So
Hey, WWE,
that was great.
keep up what you're doing, buddy.
I was
Whoever
like, it
called
was
that.
a 6-hour event. We just had it was my turn to take care of the food. So I got a taco bar, all the setups from Salsaritas,
Well,
a
I
big
mean-
taco bar pack.
Don't they call you something?
Yes, some people do call me Taco Tyler.
That's what it was. Couldn't remember really, but that's what it was.
Yes.
Of course,
But I
you
was
bring
telling him-
tacos.
I was telling him that, like, anytime, like, Sheamus entered his entrance, it was all piped in booze, like the video game. Like,
Yeah.
when playing the video game, who's heel, who's face. That's how they have it set up. If they're billing them as face, then obviously they're piping in the cheers. And I was like, it's so unrealistic that every individual in the arena would be booing Sheamus because he has fans.
Yeah,
It's just so put on. Because I like Sheamus pretty good. I was like, I wouldn't be booing
he's
him.
honestly had a pretty decent past month or so, like a build up. He's not been
I was like,
terrible.
I wouldn't be booing him, and if I was in the audience, but they have 100% booze piped in, and I
like
get
kick it
what they're
back like
doing.
70%, 30 maybe.
Yeah. I was like, I get what they're doing, but it's just like the video game is what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
They've billed them as face and heel in their built-in persona, and if they're billing them as heel, they get automatically booed by 1,000% of the stadium, even
probably
though
love it.
it's so false. Yeah, they love it because they can control the aspect of it. They have more control now over what they send us than they ever have.
If they let people in that Mania, or the first like live crowd that gets to come back, can you imagine that pay-per-view? Like if it was like a pay-per-view in like a Chicago or something, or like just somewhere that's just crazy. I would love to be there. If we could get tickets to that, just to like go crazy with that crowd, because that's what it's really about. It's just the pulse of the crowd, of the moment, of just like the atmosphere. That's why you go. Like you go to just be a part of it, dress up, get your shirts, walk down those stupid like straight down stadium seatings. You think you're going to fall all the way down because we can only afford nosebleeds. And it's just that feeling of just being a part of something that's just so great. And just that first crowd back is going to be insane.
And I would, when we get back to a place where you can have max capacity, I would definitely, if I'm WWE, I would put it in a Philly or in a Chicago or in a New York. I would go balls to the wall on, we've got to have our first full crowd at a crowd interactive place.
Yeah.
On purpose.
On purpose.
We don't care if they hijack the show. We want them to have a blast.
Yeah.
They need to invest in a shit ton of glow sticks and things like that and party favors, and just pass them out to every audience member and just be like, let's go ham, people. Let's just get into it.
Just shake out the past 2 years. Just scream your face off. Past 2 years of build up. Just let it go. Oof.
But I told you before we started recording, it was a good card. Little predictable near the end. I mean, as much as they were showing Miz backstage, and we knew he had the briefcase, and he was pushing it down to the wire, and they even showed a scene of him talking to MVP after Lashley lost the U.S. title to Riddle. Like he's talking to MVP, like you can tell them they're cutting a deal. And I looked at Josh, I was like, either MVP is going to buy the briefcase from him for Lashley, or Lashley's going to cause Drew to lose the cash in. And match is over. Here comes Lashley, destroys Drew. Miz cashes in. I was like, wow, they really, there weren't even context clues in that. They gave us the whole script throughout this entire pay-per-view.
It's very transitional though. So with Riddle and with Drew, so I mean, you get the U.S. belt off of Lashley without making him look weak, and you get the belt off of Drew by making Lashley look better, and then Drew not look weak because Lashley looks like a freaking monster. And then Miz is kind of there to be like, I'm just going to take this off of Drew because, we don't want him to lose clean, but also Lashley is going to probably destroy Miz in whatever capacity that is. Which I saw next week on Raw is a championship match with Miz and Lashley. So if they take it off of Miz on a Raw, bro, that's cold. At least give him a pay-per-view.
Because Lashley and Drew going against each other is what we as fans have been pushing for. And it looks like they're giving it to us. Whether there's a belt involved, we don't know. They could completely swerve us and the title not even be involved at WrestleMania. And
say it'll be Lashley going into Mania and then Drew taking it off of Lashley at Mania with like some semblance of a crowd. So Drew will get that pop that he didn't get last year.
And within a year, he would have been the 3-time WWE champion now.
I know. You got to pump those numbers up, kid. You seen Charlotte lately? She's like 32-time. You got to catch up with her, kid.
I saw something funny on Twitter when I was live tweeting from the podcast during the pay-per-view. They said they've made it easier now for people to slip in and out of the chamber if they wanted to do it theatrically, the way it's built now, they can just kind of slide the back door back and they can get out. And someone put up an entire storyline of like Charlotte comes out, slides out the chamber door, destroys Kofi Kingston, inserts herself into the match, and becomes the WWE champion. I was like, we're not the only ones making these jokes. I showed it to Josh. I was like, it's out there. We're not
Get
the
her
only
more
people
titles. Get her on more shows. We've got a fourth show planned. Put her on the poster. We don't know what it's called yet. Just put her face up there.
They're in a meeting. They're like, okay, we're going to have to take the belt off Drew for a little bit. What do we do? So hear me out. Charlotte Flair. Jim, you're brilliant. You son of a bitch, you're brilliant.
Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair wins. Nice. Cut it.
Cut the check. But I definitely think it's going to be an interesting Mania. Like I said, it was a good card, good matches, pretty entertaining. Except for, as I've told you, the women's tag team division is in shambles because of who has the belts. I absolutely cannot stand Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler. They're dull.
Well, let's
to me.
break up the Iconics because they're not over, right?
Let's take the titles quickly off of Bailey and Sasha when they were the first inaugural champs. So quickly we put them on the Iconics. Oh, and then we'll just break up the Iconics and let's just put random women together. Let's do what we do with men a lot. Just put randoms together instead of focusing on quality tag teams. Let's just do that. Let's ruin the women's tag division the way we ruin the men's tag division.
That's why FTR left, bro.
Mm-hmm.
No, WWE hasn't cared about tag teams in 20 years.
No,
Unless they're Brothers of Destruction and DX 30 years out of prime.
The only time they really focus on tag teams
it's all about the money.
Is if their names are D-Generation X, Brothers of Destruction, or their last name's Hardy. Those are the only tag teams they really care about. And they're 30 years past tag team prime.
Yeah.
It's just, but we could sit here and belittle WWE.
I know, we're turning into a wrestling podcast, bro.
We are on the road to WrestleMania, so it will be interesting to see where we go from here into Fastlane. And we will definitely touch base with that after that pay-per-view happens. If you are wanting to follow along with all the conversations we have on the 30 and Nerdy podcast via social media, here's how you do it. We are on Twitter at 30 and Nerdy Pod, and we are this close to 1,000 followers. It is on the precipice of 1,000 followers. So if you're listening and you're on Twitter and you're not following 30 and Nerdy Podcast, go to at 30 Nerdy Pod and hit that follow button. We're on Instagram at 30 and Nerdy Podcast. We're on Facebook. We are even on TikTok, people. And we are on YouTube at 30 and Nerdy Podcast. If that was too much for you to keep up with, just go to 30nerdypodcast.com. Go to the directory. That's where we're at. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the blogs and newsletters on the website. We send out on the regular basis. Scroll down to the bottom of the screen, enter your email, click subscribe. We will keep you up to date on all things nerd culture. We love hearing from you nerds as well. 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Shout out to us. If you've got something you want us to talk about on the podcast, if you have a disagreement with something we've said, maybe you absolutely love Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. I don't care. Let us know. 30nerdypod@gmail.com. And that is not all, people. If you want to know what is going on at Bad Cast Company Production, like all exclusive Patreon content and other exclusive Patreon shows, check out badcastcompany.com. If you're into pops and collectibles, follow our boy here at Rev Collection. That's REV_COLL3CTION for all things in the realm of collectibles. He is your place to go for things like pops, Pokemon, figures, the works. It's easy to go to your Instagram, search the name, hit that follow button. You won't regret it. Rev, how are things going on the Rev Collection Instagram? What have you got going on right now?
Bro, the world of collectibles is absolutely on fire for Pokemon right now. So that's your
Mhm.
hottest of hot, and the new. I want to keep calling it expansion, but it's not expansion. Just the word is escaping me. The new set that dropped is Shining Fates, and that thing is selling faster than your grandma's hotcakes. You know what I'm saying? Because every time you go in a store, whether it's Walmart, we can pipe in Austin Watts right here, Target, GameStop, Barnes and Noble, anywhere on the planet, it is gone, bro. I've had to come to terms with myself and say, Logan, and I say, self, you need to stop this. You're driving all over the world. You're driving to Griffin out here in Georgia. You're driving to Conyers out here in Georgia. You're driving to the rich folks in North Atlanta, and I'm finding nothing. So I'm wasting more gas than I am collecting. So, but it's a pretty hot market. Everybody's after always the Charizards, but me, I have got a lot of pre-orders in, and my DC Universe Robin is coming in this week, and I will have all of the Gotham Knights because I got Batgirl, I got Nightwing, I got Red Hood. I'm just waiting for that Robin. So, and in a week, my 9 pops of Miles Morales that are dropping are coming in. So I'm really excited to have a Miles section on my wall.
You are looking to getting into selling and buying as well, like via the interwebs and stuff like
Oh
that.
yes.
So the best way to hit you up right now is to go to your Instagram, rev_collection, and message you. If you're going to start posting things like this is for sale.
Yeah, I've got a few things on Instagram. I'm gonna hit up. There's a Macari app as well that kind of goes over there. Facebook Marketplace. You got eBay, but I'm trying to make my hub my Instagram so I can just sell directly
Mhm.
to the person because like with the shipping and undercuts that like every app does, it kind of takes your like at least 30% of your profit. So I'm trying to hook people up with good deals and hook myself up with not getting absolutely
Well, and you're
blasted with fees.
trying to stay away from the third party middleman. You're trying to
Yeah.
make it more personal too. There's more personal interaction in that. Like you
Oh
contact
yeah.
me, this is the pup you want. Give me your mailing address. Boom, you get this.
Oh yeah.
And no middleman. It's more personal that way, and I like it that
Personal,
way
man.
a lot better.
I think end goal too is like once I get my collection pretty nice and I'm getting things pretty flowy, I want to get like a store online going so I can just have
Mm.
like put the things I have for sale online. Just send the link up and be like, hey, we can go here. Shipping's flat rate. I can tell you what it's worth, what it costs, what my deals are, and just ship it out that way. So I'm trying to learn. There's a lot of good people in that community. So like all the people that are in that community, that's not just scalpers trying to flip and bleed you dry for money. Like the genuine people are awesome. So if you are a collector and looking to just like find things like Popwise comics or figures, like Instagram and the community, even Facebook. There's a lot of good Facebook groups on there too. Like the community is awesome.
Hmm. Well, when you get to that, when you get
It's
like
kind
a
of like
site set
this
up,
little nerd culture as well.
yeah, yeah, it absolutely is, and that's one thing that I've loved about doing this podcast is the other nerds you meet amongst podcasting and social media and things like that, the personal connections you make. But when you do get a site set up, we will definitely have a link on our 30 and Nerdy podcast
Oh yeah, for sure.
.com page that can easily link you to a store. So I want to have a little bit of fun here. This next segment will vary between episodes. Some episodes it'll be random on random conversations. Some episodes it'll be story time. But the two things that this segment is going to be is one came from Juice himself, a suggestion, an idea, and it's called In or Out. So I'm going to mention something that came up in the news, in the nerd news this week, and I'm going to ask you, Rev, if you're in or out. So,
God.
comicbook.com has reported that Big Hero 6 characters may soon be making their live action debuts in the MCU in coming phases. Though details are light for now, it is reported that two names mentioned that are mainly Baymax and Hero. My question to you, Rev, are you in or are you out?
I'm all about that because I mean he deals with nanobots, right? So I mean that's kind
Mhm.
of right along the lines of like Tony Stark type mindset, and like he would fit right in. He would kind of be like a maybe more like a Robo Craft Spider-Man almost, not like with the webs or anything, but just like with that, being his kind of conduit to being a hero.
Yeah. So with
I'm in.
them getting possible live action counterparts.
Oh, it's live action.
Yeah, they'll be making their.
Oh, you're
There
talking
are
about like
plans.
in the MCU.
I'm
Yeah, I'm
talking about
down with that, bro.
Who plays Hero
Yeah.
for you?
Oh, dang. I don't know, man. That would be cool. What do you and Juice say? You and Juice are so much better than that, or than me with
I haven't
the
talked about it with
faces.
him. It just popped up on the news today. So
Mm.
I only saw Big Hero 6 once in the theaters and
Hmm.
am having issues recollecting the whole thing.
He's like a very young, like a Asian boy. So it would have to be probably like in the range of like maybe 14, 15 years old, I would say. Like kind of like almost
Okay.
anime hair, like little swooshed over, like cool looking young
So
kid.
do you think Osric Chow is too old? He played Kevin in Supernatural the Prophet.
Ooh, dang, that would be so good. Does he look like he is? Like, has he aged a lot?
Not much, no.
Dude, that would be super cool. Have him more like a like young adult type deal rather than
Mhm.
like 13 or so, and have him like just pop up. Dude, that would be cool. He would
Especially
be.
if it
He would
takes
be really
place
good.
after the events of Big Hero 6.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, he's a kid, and it's been like what? Maybe is it 10 years? Has it been 10 years since that movie?
Has it
So I
been?
mean, it would kind of fit.
Possibly.
It'd be like 25 ish, maybe
Yeah.
25 to 30 range. Dude, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks exactly like it. Would you do kind of like a Hulk type thing with
Baymax?
Baymax?
Baymax, I would do as close to the characters you can get. Not Hulk. I would
Yeah.
have it be like a
Wow.
fluffy marshmallow man.
He's so good though.
I
He's one of
would.
my favorite, man. I was actually when was that? I was watching it with Cash at some point. I can't remember if it was on Netflix or something. They like cycle through so many things now. Like they'll put it on
Mhm.
for a month and then take it off. And that's such a good movie. I feel like it's very underrated.
It is. It is. And it's Marvel. And
But
so they easily can do
back to
it. They can do
the
whatever
task
they
at
want.
hand. I am in.
I'd be in. I think it'd be very interesting.
You have like a healer and a nano crafter.
Mm-hmm.
I always got to have a healer. You're getting wiped
And it
real
would
quick.
be a good time to bring them in, leading towards the Young Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a really good time to bring them in.
Because we got just like with the Rumble, we're at the tipping point of like we need to know where our story's going. We need to know who our headliners are. I think everybody's at that point, which especially is like chomping at the bit now because we've got pushed back so much. Almost 2 years now we're pushed back, so everybody's just like, we got to go. Because at this point, we'd have probably already seen maybe a clip of Fantastic Four or the X-Men or something, like in a cutscene or something, like to give us a little taste.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. So our next little segment here is Pop of the Week. As seen on our 30 and Nerdy podcast YouTube channel, Rev's Collection Corner has begun, and you've been putting in the work. So out of your recent haul that was just on the second episode,
Hmm.
What would you consider your pop of the week that you gathered in your recent haul?
Ooh, I would say the one out of the ones I've got, definitely the Morgan Stark and the Tony Stark, because it's a pop in the box exclusive, and it's Morgan with the um, rescue hat on, and she's doing the projection of Tony, and he's just a hologram. So it's like her reliving moments with her dad, and that thing is really pretty, and it has like the little
Mm.
Iron Man helmet at her feet that's projecting like the
Oh,
the hologram. I know.
mm.
I want to put it in a section. I've already got it in my head in the new room that I want to do. Like, there's a lot of cool artists on Instagram too, and I've been talking to a few of them. And I want like our family, like Cash, June, Peyton, me, to be drawn as a cartoon. It'll be my "I Love You 3000" wall. So it'd be like them
Oh,
young and have Tony as like the centerpiece with Morgan, and then having like all my actual family like around that, just to be like a little tribute to like my "I Love You 3000." So
oh,
that's my plans.
that's beautiful.
I know, right? I was thinking about that, and I was like, dude, that's perfect. That's a perfect pop for that. Then have them
Truly
all
are the
cartoony.
last family man.
But it's so cool too. And everybody like with the pops and stuff, they're always about stickers, and this one has a glow sticker and a pop in a box sticker, so they're very shiny and pretty. And it's going for $80 right now. You pay 20 for it plus shipping, and then you can flip it for 80. But it's sold out right now, so they might do restock. That's another thing in the collectible game. Don't pay scalper prices. Be patient. It will come.
Mhm.
Unless you're buying from me. No, I'm playing. Just kidding.
So
But
our
seriously.
next little segment is the Nerdcabulary word. And I've got a juicy one here.
Season 3. Ooh, juicy one. Is it from Juice? Or you just
No.
use that analogy?
No, just
Oh.
an analogy. A visco nerd.
Mm.
It's loosely based on the term visco girl. This is a new generation of nerd. Most of us in-depth nerds would call them fake nerds, but I call them visco
dear.
nerds. They're hip to the whole nerd thing by the mainstream only. They do not read the comics, but they did see the MCU with that sexy Tom Holland in it. So now they're in the know, and boy, do you see it on their Instagram. They got the oversized Stark Industries shirts, short shorts, so it looks like they have absolutely nothing on, which is totally inappropriate on Instagram. They got the glasses, like nerd glasses, long Spider-Man socks, Converse on, and use captions like "just nerding out with my BB Tom Holland," hashtag nerd life.
This doesn't aggravate you at all, does it?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
This is not personable. It's
This is
strictly
not.
business.
This is not an attack of any nature. So yeah, that is your first nerd word of season 3, visco nerd.
I like it.
Use it in your daily life. I'm sure everyone has visco nerds in their life now. They're usually of Gen Z age, typically. That's not meant as an attack. It's just an observation.
Just putting it out there. It's kind of like in the 80s, right? When you're wearing a Nirvana t-shirt and you're like, what's your favorite song? You're like, what do you mean? Like, Nirvana. What?
Name 3 songs.
That's the big thing. Name 3 songs. If you can name 3, then you're a real fan. I always love that.
Yeah.
Because I myself dabble in like all kinds of music. I remember in high school, I was in my metal phase, but I know nothing like of like in-depth metal. It's like I hear something, I'm like, okay, that's pretty dope. I want to hear that more. They're like, name 3 songs. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm listening to it. That's what
Had that done to me in my senior year of high school.
oh
I
no.
bought an All That Remains shirt
Oh
because
no.
I had just played 6 on Guitar Hero, and I was like,
Ooh,
"Ooh, I really like this band."
you
And
poked the
then
emo
I
hive.
and then I saw the music video to This Calling,
Mhm.
and so I bought an All That Remains shirt. And this guy, this was my senior year, and this guy in my class was like, "I like your shirt," and I said, "Thanks, man." And he said, "What's your favorite album?" It's like,
Guitar Hero?
what's
Dude,
the
I'm
album
terrible with
with?
albums. I can't name albums of my favorite bands right now. I could not tell you. I'm not that deep into it. I'm like, I like this on the playlist. I like this on the playlist. And I'll just go all over the place. But we have those friends too. Literally just
Hmm.
got done talking about some, and they are literally like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess we are too on some aspects of
Yeah.
things. So
Everybody is.
everybody is, especially when you're passionate about something
Absolutely.
like long shirts and long socks.
Spider-Man socks and fake unprescripted nerd glasses, and posting on your Instagram with the kissy lips or the tongue down to your right corner with the peace sign. Be like, "I'm just being Tony Stark today." Hashtag nerd life. Hashtag love you 3000. Hashtag I am Iron Man. Hashtag snap.
Hey, we need to start doing that on Instagram. I'm gonna do it. What can we do? What's the reverse of that? That would aggravate them.
That would aggravate them. Act like we know so much about their favorite musical groups. Get like a Taylor Swift
What's your
shirt.
favorite K-pop?
Be like, yeah, get like a K-pop shirt. Take pictures of us, just like
Is K-popping it out today?
just K-popping with my fam.
Just have our swoosh hair too.
Hashtag domo arigato. Hashtag Mr. Roboto.
Oh Lord, we might be offending somebody. I had to clip all this.
Not trying to attack anyone, but it is just very observational. It became very observational over the season break before starting season 3 of 30 and Nerdy. I just started noticing it. And I was like, ugh. So before we get to our first topic at hand, we're going to step away for a quick commercial break. We will be right back with more 30 and Nerdy podcast.
Hi, I'm Cody,
And I'm Christian.
and we're Nerds with Friends.
Not just two nerds who have some friends.
No, we're your hosts for the podcast, Nerds with Friends.
We cover any topic that people can nerd out over, from TV, movies, and comics.
To conventions, tabletop RPGs, and much more.
Nerds with Friends comes out every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher.
And of course, on our website, nerdswithfriendspodcast.com.
Join us every week as we confess our nerdy confessions and talk about the latest in nerdy news.
And remember, you're not alone, you're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. Thank you for listening. Now back to the show.
Hey there, this is Neil Ward, and I'm one of the lead actors of the film Hosts, and you're listening to 30 and Nerdy.
Meanwhile, back at 30 and Nerdy. My fellow nerds. A year ago, we began to enter into a dark and tumultuous time in our lives and in our nerd culture. We still find ourselves not just in a constant state of flux, but in a constant state of standstill. We are still fighting a pandemic, civil injustice, hate, ignorance, loss, a great divide, and the unknown. We have lost lives on our planet in numbers that surpass anything of the modern era. We've battled sadness and depression. We've battled anxiety and the longing to get to some normalcy. There is, however, a light at the end of the dark tunnel. We have come so far, but there is still so much to do. In the time of crisis, the Nerdiverse has been shaken to its core. From cancellations to postponements, we find ourselves not knowing if some things will even come to fruition. From comics to video games, to movies and television, What's next? When will it happen? Where do we go? Why can't they just release it? These questions are becoming more and more prominent with every passing week. With all the unknown, nerds are resilient. Nerds band together. Nerds overcome. Nerds will rise. A day may come when the courage of nerds fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. An hour of online trolls and shattered screens when the age of nerds comes crashing down. But it is not this day. As your Duke of Nerds, it is my job to continue the fight, to press on, to gather us all under one banner, to unite our nation of nerds into the union of the Nerd World Order, to bring together Trekkies and Star Wars fans, to unify Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter nerds, to solidify the bonds of DC and Marvel guys and girls and every nerd in between. As your Duke of Nerds, I can wholeheartedly say we cannot be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interests. This is the time, as a union of nerds, that we declare in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to move on. We're going to get through. We're going to be better nerds for it. We will rise, unified in a way we have never seen, a way that the outside world has never seen. All eyes will be on nerd culture. We will not be overlooked. They will see us. They will hear us. One nation under nerd.
Rev, a year ago, we started hearing murmurs of how serious this pandemic was going to get. It had not been diagnosed a pandemic yet, but we had started hearing murmurs and news clips. And I was living with you in Atlanta at the time, and I remember us being in Target, and people were shopping,
stealing all the toilet paper.
Yes, stealing all the toilet paper.
Literally.
When did you realize that it was going to be more serious than we initially thought? Like, what moment in time happened to where you're like, okay, this is a little bit bigger? And
well, I work in the food industry, so right when we heard and things got serious, like we were state mandated to like close down and figure out what's happening. So that first like week of like the shutdown, the first 2 days, I think, were just, hey, we're going home, and literally come back the next 2 days and clean everything. We moved out all the tables, all our equipment, and just cleaned everything down. And we went to straight, like we're pretty much like I guess you could compare it to like a Subway. You come in, you build your own like Mexican, like West Coast cuisine, and then we wrap it for you, make it for you, and walk out. So we were all call-in. We didn't do anything but call-in. And like our main focus is like you come in and we make you feel like family, and then you're a part of everything.
mm-hmm.
It was really weird because we had to set up like a whole like kind of catered to online stuff, and we'd make it, and then people would just, hey, I'm here, and then we'd run out, with mask and gloves on, and that's when I knew. I was like, bro, this is crazy, because there for maybe the first 2 months, we could run the store with 2 people, like in a shift, like through the whole day. And usually we've got maybe 15 plus cycling through like each shift, or like on shifts, AM, PM. So it was a crazy time. Felt like, apocalypse type times, because nobody was outside. Everybody was super scared. Like you had pockets of, hey, this is when you have to get into the grocery store to even buy food, because everybody was like, hey, we got limited capacity, and literally people were fighting over toilet paper. So it was crazy. How about you, man?
I think it was probably a few days before I left to come back home. I had talked to Nolan a little bit because New York was slowly becoming kind of a ground zero for the virus. And he had said, school's shut down. I'm going home. And I was like, okay, so that's pretty serious. And then I just started, watching the news a little bit and listening to Dr. Fauci talk from the CDC. And I was like, okay, we've never really had anything like this before. And admittedly, when they first dubbed it Corona, I mean, you and I, made jokes early on, about, well, obviously the cure to it is pounding a 6-pack of Corona itself.
Oh yeah.
So I regret making
corona,
those jokes
must
now.
the corona. Right. Yeah.
But
But who would have ever pictured, honestly?
No. I mean, we had never lived through anything like this in our life. The only other thing we had seen something like this was 9/11. With how crazy the country got after 9/11 for a few weeks. So this has definitely outlasted the fear of 9/11, and it's definitely taken us into a world that we are now no longer new at. We've been in it for a year now. I definitely, if you had told me then that this would be going on for a year, I would have said, nah, we're a smart country. We'll do whatever it takes to get rid of this thing. And I started to realize and kind of make the assumption that if this were a physical terrorist group instead of a virus that's more science based, we would have reacted totally different. We would have done anything and everything to get the bad guy out. We would have stayed in our homes. We would have locked the doors. We would have absolutely done everything they were telling us to do if there was a physical group attacking us. But since it's science-based and you can't see it, you really started to see mentalities of people you thought you knew kind of come to the forefront, whether it was there were some people that I knew that I still know that I would consider people I loved who thought it was a hoax at first and was calling it a political hoax. And I was like, political hoaxes don't kill people like this. So, or masks don't work. And I would say, well, if they don't work, then the next time you're in surgery, tell your doctor not to wear one.
I think too, on the nerd side of things, when a virus takes over like this, zombie wise, which, I mean, not tooting our own horn, but we've killed over maybe, million plus zombies. It's a hard thing to contain for sure. And if there's not the right protocols and cooperation, it's definitely going to get out of hand like it has. And I mean, feel like you could do what ifs all day, but I mean, this is the hand that we've been dealt, and here we are, a year and a half later.
In all honesty, I started to tell myself, I used to watch The Walking Dead or play zombie games or watch 28 Days Later or Dawn of the Dead or any of those Romero flicks, and I would be like, how could we let it get to this point? Like, as a country, as a globe, how are we so ignorant to let it get to the point of an apocalypse of zombies? Like, surely to God, we would have been like, there's certain things we don't need to be doing so that the infection doesn't spread. Then about halfway through the pandemic, I'm like, oh, this is how. We're not listening to the military. We're not staying in our homes. We're not doing everything that they tell us to do. That's how zombies spread in all of our entertainment industry, whether it be video game, movie, or television. I now know why it happens is because we're an obstinate people. We don't like to be told what to do. We don't.
I think too, it kind of gives you the insight of how much people are kind of self-involved. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
like them being ignorant so much as they really are blindly unaware. Because
Mhm.
like even like with me, I'm guilty of that, and I don't watch the news on daily. Like if there's something that happens, you usually inform me. You're like, "Hey, bro, did you see this?" I'm like, "No." Then I'll dive into it, but I'm just not a guy that looks at the news ever until
Mhm.
something big happens. I'm like, "Oh shit, when did this happen?" So it's like I'm just dealing with my family, trying to make
Mhm.
money, and you get in that grind, and it's like it sneaks up on you. You're like, bro, we're like shutting the store down now. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
but it's crazy. Like you said, there's so many different mindsets and people, and like even like with city to rural like areas, it's just the pacing's different. The Just everything. It's crazy just to open your eyes to something like this. Hopefully, in the long run, like we know at the trial of us failing from this, it's like we know how to deal with something like this coming around next time. Hopefully, but I mean, not that
Mhm.
it's over. We're still in the thick of it, but I mean,
Yeah.
we have to like
There is
have
a
like a
light.
notebook.
Yeah.
Say, hey,
I
we're at
hope.
least taking notes.
I really
We did
hope we're
this wrong
taking
last
notes.
time, so let's not do this again.
I think aside from that, the moment that I realized, speaking of nerd culture,
Mhm.
that things were going to be down a while was the cancellation of our WrestleMania tickets.
Ugh, I know.
Because we had,
We always bring this up, and it feels like so selfish, but at the same time, it's just like we planned that so perfectly,
yeah,
and we never
we
go through
rarely
with plans.
plan.
We rarely plan and go through. We always
Yeah,
plan, but we never plan and actually stamp the ticket and take the time off
yeah.
because we all have. It's honestly growing up. Just for all you youngins that are listening, when you have a dear friend or a number of dear friends, hold on to that friendship
Mm,
because it's so hard to
mm.
plan anything when you have your separate lives and your jobs and your just stuff going on. And we finally took out that slot of time to just say, hey, we're doing a bro weekend, man. We're gonna do
I
it.
mean,
Saved up the money.
hotel
Hotel,
paid
the raw
for,
after.
tickets paid for, raw after paid for. I mean, uh, it was just, and then we started hearing of movies being postponed and
Yeah.
till further notice,
Poor Black
all
Widow,
that
man.
fun stuff. I know. I
You
feel
feel
because
so bad.
I have been pro solo Black Widow movie for
You
years
have.
now.
You were I think you and Juice were definitely the first, and you probably were the first. And just, she had it, bro. She had it right there. And then,
And Feige is
pandemic.
fighting for it not to come to Disney Plus, to hold
D-
off and still let it have its cinematic release.
ugh. That's a bittersweet pill now because I
Hmm.
would like to see it. But, I mean,
My problem with it is how long we have as a society and as human nature, our attention spans
yeah, how long will we care? It's
are
going to be so
limited.
built up by the time that it comes out. It's going to be horrible. Everybody's going to doo
Hmm.
doo on it because it's just been built up so much.
Which is, I think, a big thing that happened with Wonder Woman 84 was it was
Mm,
pushed back and pushed back, the momentum and the momentum, and then finally it got here, and we were like, okay, for the wait, it wasn't that awesome.
no.
You know, it
And,
wasn't
I mean, it
great. It
wasn't,
was good. It wasn't great.
it just, I think it dawns back to the like you got to have a capitalization on that momentum, and I feel like all the momentum that Marvel has had has kind of went away. All the momentum that DC was kind of building with its shows and stuff, and kind of getting the redos over, which I mean, me and you personally like Harley's movie, but I think that still built momentum, like Birds of Prey,
Hmm.
and they were just kind of clicking and getting rolling and trying to catch up with Marvel, and I just feel like everything is just screeching halt. And
Marvel's having to reset with WandaVision. They're having to gather all the eyes again.
yeah, which I mean, they capitalized on that great because
Hmm.
I think Mando like everybody's glued to that, so they hit it perfectly because you're trying to get that hangover from Mando, and everybody's like, "Bro, we need something right now because I'm on such a high from that." And you're like, "WandaVision? Okay, cool, let's go." And people were like iffy about it, but now they're like, "Bro, this is crazy. Like, why were we hating on it in the first?" But
They're hating on it because they weren't given their big whopping action scenes.
yeah,
They were like, story, what, acting, character develop. Whoa, 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 whoa! Give me flashy, flashy, boom, boom, pow. Like these first two episodes are all like they're talking and they're making jokes and they're doing this sitcom thing. But then the second that we got a little bit of action, they're like, okay, this is the greatest show ever. I was like, God, we are spoiled.
like when we talk about the Seahawks, we're not Seahawk fans, but we're always like, "Let Russ cook, man. You got to let Russ cook."
You have to.
Gotta give it time. You gotta give it time. Wait for the bird.
Like, that's just about everything. Like, I remember saying to somebody on Twitter, they were bashing the first episode, and I was like, I just tweeted to him, I said, so I'm under the assumption that you eat all your food raw. And they said, no, what's that supposed to mean? You got to let it cook.
Gotta let it cook, baby.
And they just tweeted back, understood. It's like, God,
Hey.
you guys are so impatient.
Can you eat sushi every night? Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Is it
you
going to get
can.
awful? Probably by the third day.
It's going to get awful, and your intestines are eventually going to be like, bro, I need something new.
Give me some cooked food. I need some story. I need some potatoes.
So we've got things being postponed, and WrestleMania is canceled, and we kind of start seeing the state of where we're going in not just entertainment, but as a country, as a planet. But I really want to focus on that was a year ago, 10 months ago when things started. You know, a year ago when we got into it, and probably 10, 11 months where we realized we're not going to get to go to the movies anymore. Things aren't going to drop when they're supposed to anymore. You know, even video games are getting pushed back because people can't meet in their offices to develop the video games.
Yeah.
And so flash forward to a year, here we are, and the state of the nerddom is slowly been picking up. You know, Mando dropped in October, and that, you know, wet our whistle with nerd culture. And then finally we've got WandaVision, and Wonder Woman dropped on Christmas. We've got some things. And then we had a digital Marvel. Then we had the DC fandom experience happen, and it gave us, you know, the Batman trailer and wet our whistle even more. And so
Which I think they're almost done wrapping up, right?
I think it's finished.
Ooh.
See, the things that I know are finished for sure that they could release tomorrow if they wanted to is the Eternals and the Suicide Squad.
Really?
And of
That's
course,
already done?
Black Widow. Yes.
Dang.
And of course, Black Widow. So 3 things are technically finished that they could drop tomorrow, but they haven't. And, you know, thinking strategically, if I'm in that world, I'm like, we don't need to drop these all 3 of these things tomorrow. You know, I'm sure Disney and Warner Brothers are actually like finding it upon themselves to like communicate with one another.
Oh, yeah.
This has probably made them like, dude, what are you guys doing? I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, you're definitely not
what do we
getting
do?
like 3 drops in the summer that's like crazy main event.
I think
Not
it
getting,
is.
you know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and, you know, Iron Man all in the same summer anymore.
So here we are a year later. The state of the nerddom is somewhat better, but it's been changed with different things, with so much time spent in the house during this pandemic. Everyone's eyes are on social media, And I think a lot of the reason that the nerddom is in a state as it is because of social media. Let's take one topic to start off with is John Boyega, who played Finn
Mm-hmm.
in the Star Wars sequels, hit the ground running with all these accusations and how he hated what they did to Finn. And there was blatant misogyny and racism in, character development for these Star Wars sequels. Then, that comes on top of, Black Lives Matter happens. And then we get and I think a lot of it's because our eyes during this pandemic, especially as nerds, he's part of our nerd culture because he's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So we're following all of his words. Then Ray Fisher comes out, speaks out against Joss Whedon. All our eyes are on that because that's part of our nerd culture. So, and then of course Gina Carano's ignorance that she put up on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think. Let's pick that one apart. Let's just pick that one apart. So, she says on her social media, she's already gotten in trouble before with Disney for tweeting far right wing, insane things like voter fraud, stuff like that. And she's been warned by her boss, the private company Disney, who in all their contracts have verbiage saying you have freedom of speech, but you can't say certain things that will negatively affect our company. So flash forward, and now she tweets, being a Republican in 2021 is equivalent to being a Jew in Nazi Germany.
Pretty bold.
Okay. First off, you're not being hunted down and wiped off the planet and killed and put in concentration camps.
Or put in burial holes filled with thousands upon thousands of people in the same grave.
None of that is happening to you. Then an hour later, she obviously thought, that was stupid. She deletes it. But, I mean, the second she tweeted it, I mean, if I tweeted something right now, there are people set up to get notifications from mine. So they'll get a ding, like 30 and Nerdy tweeted something. Mm-hmm. And all they have to do is snap a picture. And I can delete it in 10 minutes, but it's there.
It's on the interweb forever then.
Once you text or tweet or Facebook or YouTube, anything, it's there. You
kind of just got to take it upon yourself to be your own filter. Like before you just kind of like the equivalent of back in the day, like can't just run your mouth all the time.
Well, it's kind of become this, and Rich from Three Fat Nerds said it really well on their episode recently. It's went from it's not cancel culture, it's consequences culture.
Yeah.
Like you can say whatever you want. You do have the First Amendment. Thank God we have the First Amendment. You can say whatever you want, but it's freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences. Like I can go into a crowded building and yell fire all I want to, thanks to the First Amendment, but there's going to be consequences.
Well, true, man. You got to think like even on small scale, I get paid by an employer. I work in the food industry. Those people aren't very pleasant day to day. I could tell them, hey, why don't you go blah, blah yourself and, get out of my store. And I could do that. I have freedom of speech. It's America. But then the next day, I probably won't be employed. And I mean, it just is what it is. Like people can take it like that. Like, you're standing up for whatever, but I just don't think her stance is that pressing. Like she's not, standing up for equality or anything. She's just kind of being an a-hole. So, like why? Like why do you just put yourself out there to just? I'm not very political one way or the other. I don't really care, but in a just a moral stance, I'm a very big on respect, just people to people. Like the person in front of me, I give you respect until I think you don't deserve it. So why go out of your way just to be super rude? I don't get that.
Mm-hmm. What's kind of driving this theme of the state of the nerddom is where we're at now in all of our nerddoms and our nerd culture, even though we have things to look forward to and things that are supposed to be happening in the future. Phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, whatever. DC's announced things. Does this year that we've been through shorten the life of nerd culture and cinema? Does it like, okay, had we, because we're now, we're past the year and we're probably another year away from being what we called normal.
Yeah.
Because the vaccines have to be out. Herd immunity has to be reached. We have to rethink on how many people we put in places and stuff like that before we're at where we were. So that's 2 years. Say 2 years to play it safe for sake of argument. 2 years. Can these 2 years be detrimental to the future of our nerd culture? Or do you think it's strong enough, it's become strong enough we'll still have phase 6 and 7 and 8 and cinema's superhero movies and as big as they are right now? Will it last through this? Like we know the Fantastic Four are coming, but does what's going on right now impact how big the Fantastic Four and X-Men really are in the MCU? Plan-wise.
I honestly think it makes it better because I don't think, I mean, just like us, or like if you're dealing with, back in the day with alcohol, or if you're dealing with, the just whatever have you, like you got your underground things. If things go away and you're not supposed to have them, not like it's comparing to alcohol or not, but you got your, rum runners like trying to get it to it because you don't have it. And then now we don't have it. So we're like, hey, we got to get this. We want this. So, I mean, we're talking literally about things to come. Like half your season 2 was talking about, hey, we don't have much to talk about except things that we're hoping for and things that we hope that happen. And we're still here talking about and having a podcast about, hey, I hope these things happen because, I mean, that kind of is what fuels us. So even for me, I'm not the movie guy that you and Juice are, but I tag along because I like I just said with, wrestling, I like the atmosphere. I like the feeling that it is. It's almost nostalgic, like take you back to childhood because you always remember, what theater you were at when you saw Lord of the Rings for the first time, or what theater you were at when you saw Batman, or like who you were with, or even like down to things like Paranormal Activity where we were at in Knoxville, like just that vibe you get. Like it's just different. It's not the same as you watching it here, on your couch with your buddies. Like it's still as good the second time, like watching it with your buddies because you've enjoyed it, but you don't get that same experience. Like you watching Lord of the Rings for the first time or Star Wars for the first time at your house is a completely different experience going into it blind, going into a movie theater. And I just think people are going to be like, man, I have to get this, Marvel kick, or because I mean, we were at one point getting maybe 2 or 3 Marvel type movies or shows or something a year, whether it be, on, your local cable or your movie drops with summer or winter movies, or you're at least getting like a every other year with Star Wars. So, I mean, we had that, like you were talking about, them trying to, place it in a pocket where we're just like, we want to crave it, and then they give it to us. We're like, oh yeah, that's so good. And then you give it a little bit more and you're like, oh, it's like that when you haven't had water for like 12 hours and you hit that first drink of water and it just fills your whole body with that feeling. It's like we're just in a dry spell right now. We need that sip of nerd water that just activates every particle in our being. And I just think people are going to be just like me. I was talking to Pate the other day. I was like, I really miss going to movies, and I don't go like but maybe I could count on maybe two hands what movies we go to in a year. But I really enjoy that spot I have for them because it's always been a part of us, even our friendship. Like, hey, we need to go see this movie, and I'm like, yeah, of course, let's go. So I think it only helps it because obviously the time that we're in, it's hurting, just the process and how it goes along. But could you imagine like seeing like Reed Richards or somebody coming in at the end of like, Black Widow or something and say, hey, this is what we need help with and setting up the rest of, the next phase. And you'll be like, bro, I am for it. Let's go. Let's get it. Pump it out. What about you, man? What do you think it's going to help or hurt?
Think that it's going to do both. I
Yeah.
think it's going to hurt in the short game of like next year, but I think it will help in the long game of when things. I'm not going to say if because we will overcome this. As President Biden has said 1,000 times, there's nothing that this country can't do when we work together. There's nothing this country can't do. So we will get back to that point. Then I think it'll be an explosion. And I think that what you will see is nerd culture on the big screens. I don't think your studios after the pandemic are pumping out A Star is Born or The Irishman. I think those movies suffer more than nerd culture movies. I think your theaters are going to be chocked full with the next three phases of Marvel, whatever DC's doing. I think they are going to be what's in the theaters solely for a while. So I think in the long run, then it will survive. Our nerd culture has evolved and survived for, hundreds of years, so to speak. I mean, from the first inception of Detective Comics to now, it's survived and evolved. So it'll just survive and evolve this. It's more of a how we take in the nerd culture and how many eyes are on the nerd culture moving forward that kind of makes me think this time that people have been indoors. I think at one point last season, I had a big crossover episode called Crisis on Infinite Nerdverse, and Rich from Three Fat Nerds said, this has been great for nerd culture in the vein of like people are at home and doing nothing and they're on Disney Plus and they're like, okay, I've seen this, but I really don't know a lot about the history of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm just going to get on, this app that Marvel has and buy a bunch of those comics. So comics and video games have really thrived during this pandemic. And with these streaming services, nerd culture has kind of maintained in the midst of it. I think in the short game, it's going to look like we're in trouble because we won't be able to. We've just seen all the things that were announced from Blade to Fantastic Four, the mentioning of mutants, the Eternals, but getting there will seem like ages away in the short game. But in the long run, I think that this is going to be kind of a nice reset point because it's kind of been nice. I think you've said this to me a few times in text. It's kind of been nice getting that break after Endgame. That small little like breather, just kind of like it would have been.
I don't know if it had been this long when I was saying it, but
yeah,
definitely.
But
a nice breather.
It's been a nice breather to not really have anything nerdy after a while because a little over a year ago, well, more than a year ago, we were, getting Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home and, Aquaman and all this
Felt like
stuff.
they're
So we
revving
had
up
this,
just
this
to go right into the next phase immediately.
we were getting Birds of Prey because that was the last movie we saw in theaters before the pandemic hit, was Birds of Prey. And so it was kind of a nice cool down, but I definitely did not want a global pandemic and, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths and I don't want to, when I talk about the pandemic's impact on nerd culture, I don't want to ever sound like I'm shying away from, you know, the more serious aspects of the pandemic. You know, people have died. I guess the last thing I want to talk about in the state of the nerddom is where we're at with video games, because we've kind of joked about it. We've kind of given its punches, but you know, Cyberpunk kind of had an iffy, you know, my friends who are PC gamers, they're like, we're fine. It's fine for us. We have no problems with it.
All I'm hearing online is, where is the PS5 restock?
So you're spend a lot of time with pops and all that, and you're at game stores a lot just looking for pops. Heard anything about where we're at in the console wars? Like how were sales? How were, you know, the new games coming out? Because you would think during a pandemic, video game sales would go through the roof. But with the way things happened and the pushing back of dates and stuff like that, and how long both companies waited to name their damn price, first of all, you know, waiting each other out, playing the waiting game. And with the somewhat letdown of the sequel to Last of Us, and with now the letdown of Cyberpunk for a huge percentage of people, the majority of system owners.
R.I.P. Joel.
R.I.P. Joel. What do you think we're at in the state of that nerddom, of gaming nerddom? Do we need a resurgence? And what is that resurgence?
The systems are pretty much like Pokemon and like everything else. I think it's made people have a lot of eyes, especially like TikTok and all that stuff. What's his face? Logan Paul guy. He bought the holy grail of like Pokemon, so to speak, is like your first edition base set, like shadowless, like packets. Super hard to get. This dude is selling packs for like $55K per pack in this thing. He's made over like $1 million, which they say it's going to charity. I have no idea. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But he has raised the market like through the roof. So I think in turn, like a lot of people are doing this. So they're just buying up everything, trying to flip it for resale. Even like, I don't know if you noticed, like, or even if you looked into trying to get like a PS5 or like the new Xbox over Christmas, right? So everybody's selling them out, and they're like $500 consoles. These dudes are like flipping it or trying to flip it for like $1,200. So literally, well, it's like literally everybody and their mama is going around, hey, when you getting new PS5 in? When you getting that new Xbox in? And then they're just like, oh, we don't know. We're, still trying to figure out, when we're going to get them. They send them at random and da-da-da. So if you're lucky enough to get any of that stuff right now, kudos to you, because you know how we plan always. We're like, we're going to wait till, they get all the kinks out with the first system drop, because it's always kind of so we're going to get that like next wave. I don't think we'll have a choice but to wait till like maybe the fifth wave of like the new consoles, unless we're just like waiting outside of Best Buy tenting up, because these people are crazy. Which is pretty crazy too with stores, even like with Best Buy and GameStop, which is why you really need to support, if you're any type of nerd, like going deeper than the movies, like with comics and action figures and stuff like that, you need to support your local comic book shops and your card stores and stuff like that. They have been hit super hard. Like the comic book stores and stuff that I go into like regularly, like week to week, they have had the same stuff and the same minimal stock for like ages. And I'll still try to go buy the newer comics when I can and stuff like that. But they're struggling, bro. Like half of their pop inventory, their comic inventory, they're having. I guess they're having to sell it pretty cheap or just trying to get rid of it to get by. But they've been zapped. So definitely support your local card and comic shops when you're around. But it's a struggle out here for collections, man. And I feel like the games themselves, it's been so dry lately. Like we've had one Call of Duty pop off, and I mean it's me and you I think are the same on Call of Duty. We'll play it really hard for like a month and then it kind of gets old because we've been playing that game, it seems like, for 20 years now. There's not been really any big type of games, but they've promised a lot, so
Yeah.
hopefully like in the future there's supposed to be an RPG like Harry Potter game coming out. Supposed to be a whole bunch of cool things coming out in the future, like Bethesda's supposedly coming to Xbox exclusively. I don't know when that's happening, but it could be crazy. We're supposed to get maybe some remakes of Knights of the Old Republic if that happens. And you're telling me Twisted Metal's planning on making a show, maybe going into production with the producers and directors of Deadpool, right? So I'm all about that. Twisted Metal is one of my favorite of all time.
Sweet Tooth better be cast perfectly.
I've actually got that pop right there.
He was the only character that
nasty,
I drove
bro.
as.
He has to be nasty. Yeah, I hope it's like just a horror type vibe. I hope it's not like funny aspects, but it has to be like Jeepers Creepers with maybe like some Deadpool comedy mixed in.
Like put a little Deadpool comedy in Death Race. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah. Statham.
Or that old Grindhouse movie.
Death Proof.
Death Proof. Yes. Make it like that with Deadpool comedy, and maybe as gruesome as this newest Mortal Kombat's supposed to look like.
Oh yeah, that looks good. We're for whatever reason we're having some resurgence of those PS2, PS3 type style games and in movies and shows. So I'm all for that.
Absolutely.
But I feel like just the state of games, man, it's been so dry. I've just been going backwards, playing Zeldas, playing like old school type arcade games, going to play Fallout 4 again for like the billionth time. But I need something new. I'm dry in that. I've been dry for a long time.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't pick up Skyrim again last week. So
did you? For the like 8th time. That game's been around for literally probably as long as The Undertaker.
2012. We are coming upon.
That is nuts. That is a decade.
We are coming upon 10 years of Skyrim.
And it's still fun.
That's what you want though out of a game. Longevity.
It's what you want, bro. And you can't hate on Bethesda because they always give you those type of like 10-year games. So just like Oblivion, just like GTA style, like you can play them forever, still have fun.
Absolutely. Well, what do you all think of the state of the nerddom? Where are we going? Is it positive? How long before we get back on track to where we were with our nerd culture? Let us know. Hashtag 30 and Nerdy Pod on Twitter. We're going to step away for a quick break and come back with segment 2 in a little bit. So we'll be back with more 30 and Nerdy Podcast. Hey guys, this is Tyler Mack from the Badcast Company. Host of the flagship show 30 and Nerdy Podcast and co-host of some of the other shows in the Badcast Company. Now I'm here to talk to you about Patreon. At Patreon/Badcast Company, you can find so much extra content, not just from this show, the 30 and Nerdy Podcast, but Brewing Up Rants Podcast, The Road So Far, Movie Mania, Mandalorian Mondays, and tons of bloopers and deleted scenes and unaired scenes and pictures and behind the scenes stuff. How, you ask, can you be a part of that? Well, there are different tiers. and Patreon/BadcastCompany. There is a $1 tier. If that's all you can do, you will get some exclusive things, but obviously as the tiers go up in price, what you receive in return goes up as well. We are very thankful of the Patreon supporters that we already have, and due to that, we are able to do extra things like pay for our host site for the shows. We are able to send out random gifts like Patreon exclusive shirts and stickers and hats whenever we are able to get them. However you can support the show, we are thankful for it. You can check that out at patreon.com/badcastcompany.
Hey, this is Ken M., host of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. And right now, you are locked and loaded to the sweet tea of the Nerdy South, the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack, and the 30 and Nerdy podcast.
Welcome back to the 30 and Nerdy podcast. We are into our second segment, and this is something new also for season 3, changing it up a little bit. This segment will always be something different moving forward, but for this episode, I wanted to start out this with a little segment I'm calling Dreamcast. And no, we are not talking about the failed video game system, the Dreamcast, poor Sega. But
hey, there's some things on there that's pretty good.
There's some sleeper games in there.
There's some sleepers.
So what I want to do here is I'm going to name some heroes that we are going to be getting soon. Heroes and villains in the MCU. I'm just going to name a handful for this first segment of Dreamcast. We might do Dreamcast again next week, maybe not. It just depends. So with all the talk of the Fantastic Four coming up, and we're going to exclude Reed and Sue because we have both been very adamant about who Reed Richards and Sue Storm should be, and that's John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt. I'm on the verge of saying if it doesn't happen, you have dropped the ball on your fans, because it is probably the biggest fan casting out there that we have seen in a long time. Just as big as us telling them who we wanted to play Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Because you weren't really hearing that at all, other than like the fans. And then they made it happen. So
exactly.
Hopefully this is the same way.
I hope so. So we're going to exclude them because we've already said Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt. So who plays the Thing? If you're casting the Thing, who plays the Thing?
Just put the Rock in there because he's a Rock. I don't know. I wonder how you're going to do it, though. Is he going to be... Because how are you going to introduce him? Are they already the Fantastic Four? Do we get like a origin story? Or like is he already animated and he's just kind of pulling...
We don't do origin. I think Feige's basically been like
no
origins or... How many times have we seen the origin of the Fantastic
20 years
Four?
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would be casting basically a voice for him, though, right?
Who
Who do you think?
Who do I get to voice him?
Since he's already the Thing. We're not talking about Ben. So we don't...
No.
Maybe we'll have a flashback, I guess. But
since he's already the Thing, and we're basically casting a voice... I get Troy Baker because he's voiced Booker DeWitt in BioShock 3. He's the voice to Joel in The Last of Us. He's voiced the Joker. He's voiced Batman. His voice cast is just phenomenal.
He's got that like scruffy type kind of hard edge to it too.
I wouldn't get a known physical actor to play him. Now you could flash back to Ben Grimm, and he could be a thinner Ben Grimm. You know, not like Michael Chiklis Ben Grimm in the original Fantastic Four from The Shield. But I think Troy Baker would be my casting, because if you do flashback, he can be a somewhat of a, to himself kind of guy, like Ben Grimm could be. That
Maybe
Troy Baker
have
could
like
play
the
well.
maybe even have like the classic like raincoat and hat. Maybe not even see him, just like see of him or something,
Mhm.
and then go into that kind of cycle. Maybe just have him like a very mysterious figure.
But I would find a famous voice actor, like obviously not as famous as Mark Hamill, but Troy Baker, a Nolan North, any one of those. You could get John DiMaggio to voice him. Any one of those, but I'm going voice actor for the Thing.
It'd be good. I definitely would be okay with that. Especially just he has to be gritty. He definitely has to be gritty. He has to be just like have like some sort of edge to him, just to make it believable. Kind of just like who would have guessed like Vin Diesel for Groot, but it worked perfect because it just has that like base in it. If you want like a big dude, you got to have like a good base and gruff. I'm all for that one.
What about Johnny?
I think that's tainted with yours because you keep saying Efron, like
Or
for the past like, or who?
Steve from Stranger Things.
Oh, that would be good too. Ooh, that's true. I kind of like him better.
I like him
Just
better
because
than Efron.
I do too, because he's kind of maybe just a little bit more fresh, I guess. I don't want him to be like so cocky as last time. Because he has to be cocky, but I didn't like the just lady man persona. I'd be okay with like him just being cocky just because he knows he's type of like good or like daredevil type thing. So he's just super confident rather than just straight cocky, and have that like more down to earth feel rather than like an untouchable feel. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he does that good. Steve would, because Steve was really cool in Stranger Things, but he did have like a homey type feel too, like a just like you could be friends with him easy. He's kind of like the big brother, and I like that. I like that a lot. Plus, he wouldn't have to have like the poofy hair that he had. He could like slick it back or still have like the long hair, or cut it short. You could do many things.
Yeah. What about Dr. Doom?
Oof. That one's a tough one too. You got to have somebody with a nice jaw. He's got to be very handsome guy, because that's kind of like his like MO too. Like he's got to be like almost perfection, right? But just like in a maybe sort of like a older tinge type of way. Like got some age on him, not like crazy old, but we got to think he's got to match Jim, at least from The Office, right? What's his name? Krasinski. So he has to match him in age.
Well, then Dr. Doom should just be Dwight.
That would be too good. Dang, that would be super funny. Because he's been cast like just badly for a while. I didn't hate Christian from Nip Tuck, but he felt kind of fake a little bit. You know?
What about Jason Isaacs, Lucius Malfoy?
Ooh, how old is he now? He's pretty old in Harry Potter, wasn't he? He's like 40 at least.
I mean, he's aged well. He has.
And he looks real good in makeup.
And he's British, so he's 57.
A little bit of age gap right there.
Little bit. And I think he could do I just picture that voice.
Voice
I think
would
of
be
him
good.
in the Patriot.
Would you go short hair?
That character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about how he played Tavington in The Patriot.
Oh yeah.
That would be
That's such a
him
good
as
movie.
Doom.
When's the last time that you watched that movie?
Last month.
Really?
Yeah. I watch it quite a bit, actually, for the performances. Such a good movie. I don't know, but then I thought about
what's the dude from the Django?
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
He was also in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah. What about him? Is he too old too?
He's just as old as Isaacs. Has to
Yeah.
be.
Hmm.
At one point, I had like a list written down on a notepad of these are my cast. This is my cast moving forward of when they pop up, who I think should play it. And I can't find that. I can't find that pad anywhere. What about you? Do you have anybody floating around that you maybe have recently seen in Netflix show or anything?
What about Scarecrow? He's got kind of a cool jaw.
That from Peaky Blinders, Killian Murphy. Yeah, I think
I just
Christoph
keep
Waltz
thinking
is
about the
good.
jaw.
John
He's got
Hamm.
He's still pretty
He's got
young,
the
right?
jaw.
He's 45.
He's got the jaw. He's got
He's
that
very regal.
Gaston-looking
We're just
jaw.
talking about British people. Who's your favorite British person? Play Doctor
What about?
Doom.
I thought about it since he's done being Magneto. Fassbender.
Ooh, that'd be cool. We need to keep him in there somehow. If he's not Magneto, that would be a cool role. Because he kind of gives.
Or if they don't cast this guy as Adam, which is who I want him to play, Jamie Lannister.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if Jamie would come back, but I kept thinking like, he definitely can't keep the blonde hair.
Mm-mm.
That'd be interesting.
Him as Doom or him as Adam. He'd be great as Adam, who I think we're going to meet in the next Thor.
The Thor seems like it's amping up to be really good. Dude, those later Thor movies.
Do you know who's going to be in it? Beta Ray Bill.
Is he? Dang. Who's playing him?
I don't know. I know that.
Who cares? We get Beta.
Shit. I know that Christian Bale's playing the villain.
Oh, Bale. Who is the villain? Have they announced that?
Balder.
Bale would be interesting.
He's going to come in and he's going to be like, "Where's Thor? Where is he? I'm not wearing hockey pads."
I love Bale, though.
Oh, yeah. All right, the next one I have to ask is Galactus. Who plays Galactus? I think this is a voice, too. I think he's digitally done. But I do think my pick is Prime. I think it's Prime. Liam Neeson.
Ooh, that would be cool. Give him like a growly type voice.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you are, Avengers, I will find you. I have a particular set of galactic skills. And
Eating worlds. I'm the eater of worlds.
And Jim is like, well, good luck. Click. Ooh. Poor Jim, in my mind, is just like Harry Potter. I will never know their names.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be good, though. I like that. Every big guy, you got to have that raspy voice. That would be perfect, too. Would you take his likeness to put his, like, to his face if he does, like, the just Godzilla type?
Just his eyes and his cheekbones. Other than that, it can be all. I mean, he can wear the mocap suit, kind of like all the, Tony Stark wears a mocap. All the people who have had to wear them in the MCU, the actual actors are wearing them, except for Bradley Cooper's not wearing rockets. That's Sean Gunn, who plays the physical rocket. He's in the mocap suit.
I mean, it could work.
Yeah. I don't know about Silver Surfer, though. I don't know.
You even bring him back?
No, not yet. Not until you get to Galactus.
Yeah. Is he like your one of your four horsemen again type deal? You think he comes in and is like trying to prepare the world, or I feel like that too. Like I feel like we've seen this already, so maybe he's just like kind of broke free of Galactus and is trying to find some help. Mm-hmm. Then he helps like Fantastic Four or whatever they're dealing with at the time and be like, hey, we got to get this dude out of the way because there's something else coming.
Yeah, he might show up to help him with Doom.
Oh, yeah, could be.
They'll be like, thanks for the help. And he'll be like, I just needed him off the board because there's something coming.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what Loki show is going to open up. You think it'll like mix everything up or open doors?
I think it'll open up the Time Lords. I think it'll be a precursor to Kang. Because Kang is showing up in Ant-Man 3. He's already been cast as the guy from Lovecraft Country.
What's crazy about this next phase is like most of your like normal everyday Marvel people are not going to know half these guys. So it's going to be a brand new opportunity to introduce a whole new section
and to
of
sell
villain
some comics.
and hero. Yeah, I know. Like the Eternals, I'm kind of excited about that because like I know nothing about the Eternals.
I know nothing about them.
10 years ago, I would have said the same thing about Guardians too, though. Now they're my favorite thing in MCU. So
I know more about the new gods in DC than I do about the Eternals and Marvel. DC's going to be doing a New Gods movie soon.
Really? I need to catch up on those animes on not anime. It's just animated.
I showed Juice the last one in the series, the Apocalypse War.
Yeah.
It's so brutal, man. Like, it just every like he was constantly just like, good Lord. Like, oh my God. Just like I was like, I told you, dude. Brutal.
He tore a man in half. Yeah, man. Dreamcasting. Hopefully it's not a dream for too long and it pops into reality. Man. Seeps out of our dreams and becomes reality.
So before we close, I want to talk about some theories. You've been watching WandaVision. You have not been able to join Juice and me on the Patreon exclusive show WandaVision Wednesdays, but I know you've got theories and you know a little bit more about comics, you and Juice do, about the Marvel comic world than I do. But I have gained through research of looking into different comic book stories. I have a new theory. I think that WandaVision is opening up the realm of the Nexus heroes. So moving forward, the Nexus individuals, Agatha will be one. She's purple, represents the Power Stone. Wanda will be one. She's red, represents reality. We're meeting Kang, who will be green and represents Time Stone. And then we'll just need to meet 3 more.
In these next 3 episodes?
Or just in the next phase of the MCU, Multiverse of Madness, Eternals.
I've heard like all the commercials have hinted at that, like the stones that are coming back.
And I went and searched that theory because this most recent commercial is a Nexus. It's a depression medication. It's called Nexus. I was like, I've heard that term before in Marvel. No, not WWE. So I went searching through some different comic book storylines, and I was like, okay, so eventually the stones are replaced by beings that represent each stone. And they're Nexus members. So you'd have a representative of the Time Stone, the Power Stone, reality, the Mind Stone, stuff like that. I think that that's what they're heading. I think that Agatha
would be cool.
Will be purple. She will be red. Kang will be green. I think Vision could become, if they bring Vision back, he could be the Mind Stone. But I think that's where they're leading us is Nexus.
Bringing us the Power Rangers to MCU.
Exactly. The Power Rangers in the MCU.
Dang, it's full circle.
And I also think that we're about to get a massive cameo dropped.
What is that going to be? What do you think?
I think it's
Magneto?
Reed Richards.
Reed? I hope it's Reed. That's my top one. I hope it is. I've heard Magneto probably, or it has to be something to introduce X-Men, or maybe like get a little taste of X-Men.
Vision, Paul Bettany said he's never worked with this person before.
Mm,
He's worked with Ian McKellen before. So it can't be Magneto.
yeah.
It could be Fassbender's Magneto.
True.
But it's a cameo that in an interview, she didn't say these words, but in an interview, she said, we've got a huge cameo still coming. And the interviewer said, is it like Luke in The Mandalorian? And she said, yes. I was like,
What could that be?
It's Mark Hamill.
As Reed Richards.
He comes
like, if
in.
it's that big, like, what moment in recent history can you compare that moment to? Like, there's hardly
if it's
anything.
If it's not someone new, if it's not Reed Richards, then I would say it's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
That could be it.
That would be the next biggest, like, oh my God, it's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
You think people would freak out if they brought Tony back?
I know that you both in some way have said it would take away from his death, but people die in comic books all the time. I don't see why movies should be any different. I would not be upset if he came back.
But would you be excited?
Hell yeah, I'd be excited. I just love RDJ though.
He's like, Doolittle didn't work out too good. I kind of like this gig as Iron Man. Sign me up for another 6 movies.
I would not be upset. I would say his sacrifice still meant something.
Like, I'm just thinking,
bring him back.
Like, the physical person, even if it's Reed Richards, would I be like, oh my God, this is Luke. It's a green saber. It's fucking Luke. It's got to be Luke.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and he's like, he's just messing people up. And then you see the reveal. You're like, it's fucking Luke. It's fucking Luke Skywalker. And it's like, what would do that in the Marvel universe? I don't know.
That's why I think it's Hugh Jackman. He's the only other person that would do that.
Yeah, because he didn't start it all, but he kind of technically did because he was the first, like, hero.
All-star.
Like, in those. Yeah, like, you have your tier levels. You could say Blade, you could say whatever, but on a recognizable level of, like, stardom, like MJ type level for superheroes, it has to be Hugh Jackman.
Oh yeah, his Wolverine is above and beyond any of them. Really, I'm a little biased because I'm a Wolverine guy, but I don't know. I think
like even like through the craziness of the X-Men series, and if it was bad or whatever, everybody agrees that Hugh Jackman knocked it out of the park every time. Every single time. Not something like that, or maybe Tony. I don't know if I would get the feeling of Tony since we've just recently seen him diminish. I don't think I would get that. Holy crap, he's back, because he's not been gone for that long.
I'll tell you who it is. Nicolas Cage is Ghost Rider.
I thought you were going to say Sasquatch. It's that damn Sasquatch.
Charlotte Flair.
And then she puts the Scarlet Witch in the figure circle. 8. And that's comedy, ladies and gentlemen. We started out with Charlotte Flair, and by God, we're going to end with Charlotte Flair. And rap. Thank you, good night. Hit the music. The biggest takeaway that I hope from this is somehow, some way, Quicksilver stays with us. That would break my heart if he goes. Because, like we had that discussion the other day, I just, for whatever reason, having speed and just loving speedsters in any capacity, whether it's Incredibles or if it's Flash, if it's Quicksilver, they've always been my favorite.
Godspeed.
I would love to have him back. So I feel like he could be a good comedy relief. He could be a cool character, and he could do really cool things in the future. He would be a cool kind of like side character to carry along with the next phases. and to have actually them acknowledge Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver in movies as like the twins and like a link to their father. Like that's never happened. Like we've always known it's there, but it's never like been kind of said. So that would be just like a nerd out type of thing.
I think that the parents that died in Sokovia that they always tell the story about were not their real parents. And that's what they're going to tell us eventually.
Yeah.
It'd be like, you were
taken from.
They were your aunt or uncle.
Just like a camp like their father had come out from. So like they knew you were his offspring. So because they've already
last
been
name is actually not Maximoff.
Yeah.
It is
it's
actually
Fassbender.
It's Fassbender.
I really wouldn't mind him coming back as Magneto.
It's McKellen.
That would be weird. He's been in 3 decades of superhero movies. The poor guy. Just let him rest.
But yeah, that's my Dreamcast questions. We have Fantastic Four and their villain, and talked a little bit of WandaVision theories, things like that. Some fun. Brother, this has been a great episode.
Yes, man. A lot of good talks, projections of things to come on season 3. I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, sir.
Always a pleasure. And if you have been following along, what are your thoughts? What are your theories? What are your questions, your answers? Because if anything, the state of the nerddom that we are in has definitely given nerd culture more questions than it has answers, no matter which way you have it. Marvel, DC, video games, Star Wars, what have you. There's far more questions than there are answers. Let's talk about it. 30andnerdypod@gmail.com, or just hit us up with the hashtag 30andnerdypod on Twitter. For the Rev of Rants, I am Tyler Mack. This is the 30 and Nerdy Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Good day, nerds.
You've been listening to the 30 and Nerdy Podcast, the flagship show of Badcast Company Productions. "30 and Nerdy Podcast" is an alternate reality radio show, a member of the Legion of Independent Podcasts, and part of the Council of Nerds. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Join in on the conversation using the hashtag 30andnerdypod. You can find us and other amazing podcasts at podchaser.com by searching The Apocalypse and Pod Nation. Got something to say? Email us at 30andnerdypod@gmail.com or find us at 30andnerdypodcast.com. This has been the 30 and Nerdy Podcast. Cheers to you, nerds.